Today, on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with Canada's finest, The Beef. When did you first get exposed to the wrestling industry?
It had to be around 4 or 5. I remember, I wasn't allowed to stay up for Monday Night Raw because it was on a Monday, a school night. So I would sneak out of my bedroom and hide behind the couch and fall asleep there because I was little. So I'd always get busted. That was like my go-to just to try and get any wrestling I could in. My brother and my father were into it. My grandfather were into it. Had all these old VHS tapes. As I got older, I got this crappy little box TV that I could have in my room that played DVD on one side and VHS on the other. So I'm just watching all the old '90s VHS, which shouldn't have had access to, but I mean, it definitely helped me mature as a young man going through the Attitude Era.
So, was it that exposure through family, like they were watching it and you wanted to be a part of it as well? Or, like, how did you actually stumble upon it that you got interested in the first place?
I think it was just I watched this is probably '08, so like when Undertaker was rolling on SmackDown. I remember seeing his entrance and being like, this is amazing. And then I just stopped nonstop watching. Like with my brother growing up, there's like a 10-year difference, right? So his whole teenage was the Attitude Era, and then he fell out of love with it and he had all this leftover stuff. So I kind of got into it like a hand-me-down situation with all the figures and then the t-shirts, posters, all that stuff. So it was definitely probably like impression into me pretty early on.
So, at that time, you're watching at a young age and maybe even moving forward as you age a little bit. Who were some of your favorites?
The Hardy Boys, definitely a big Mattitude guy. Shawn Michaels, unbelievable. Undertaker, Edge, Chris Jericho, Stone Cold, yeah. Basically any large figurehead that was in through that era. Like I remember like Vladimir Kozlov, that whole 2008 era. Not a huge shout out for him being my favorite, but like I remember the character work in how they were presented. That always stuck with me. Like William Regal throughout the years, Finley's definitely a big one.
So, once you're actually allowed to partake in the wrestling activities, did you get a chance to go to any sort of live show, whether that be a traveling WWE house show or an independent event that was in your area? Like, did you get to experience a live event at any point in this time?
Yeah, I got to go to I believe it was one or two live shows as a kid, and with my family, the way we are, we don't like traffic, so we will leave before the main event. And me as a kid was devastated. It was John Cena versus Chris Jericho for the world heavyweight title. I had a sign. It said, it had Cena's old finisher name on it, and then Jericho at the bottom, which no 9-year-old kid should have a sign that says that. And I remember being just so disappointed. And then I didn't really know much about live shows. I knew there was no job that I wanted more than to be a professional wrestler. Like I had stuffed dummies of old clothes, and I lived in a condo, so I was dropping elbow drops on these poor neighbors complaining like what's going on upstairs. So I don't think I actually went to my first like independent show until I was in Calgary.
How did that change your perspective on the industry? Because I know we've talked about this many times in the past. Like a WWE event is great. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of just energy and atmosphere. But when you go to an independent show, it's so much more intimate. You can actually have interactions with the performers. You can actually feel like they're involving you in the show. You know, you see sometimes kid gets the chance to chop one of the performers. Like, did that actually kind of motivate you even more that this is something that I'd like to be a part of?
It was after I had already started training, so I felt it was more attainable than ever. Like some of these guys were my age, they were starting out, and not everything was looking as crisp, but they practiced every day and they went in there, got hard. And I think D'Lo Brown was also was at my first independent show to watch, and he took time with the rest of the class and us to just talk to us and just give us advice. So after leaving my first independent show, I was like, I got this. I can do this.
Okay, well, it sounds like even before that, well before that, you wanted to be a part of the industry. Even as a kid, you thought this is what I want to do. Take me back to like the trigger event, right? We all have these dreams from time to time, but we don't all pursue them. Where were you at in your life where you decided, you know what? I am going to seek out training. I'm going to take that leap from fan to performer, or at least attempt to make that leap.
Man, it had to be back in like 2018. Before that, 2017, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do after high school as like a part-time job so I could figure out this wrestling thing. I remember looking for schools, and like Battle Arts was just either had just opened up or was just getting started. And I knew that I needed a change in my life to where I had to throw myself at it full force. So the driving back and forth to Mississauga wasn't really appealing to me.
Okay.
But then I saw Lance's school out in Calgary, and I was never much of a planner. I don't know who is in their 20s, but I just knew I had this cash saved up. He said, like, January class is all booked, but like, you can come in the summer. I was like, cool, sent the deposit. And then I didn't tell anyone why I was going. I was like, if I go and I can do this, then it's something. But I didn't tell my mom, my dad. Like, I was just like, hey, I'm in Calgary for a couple months. Try not to worry about me. We'll figure it out. And I remember, I guess I forgot to pay my phone bill before I left because when I landed, I had no cell service.
Oh,
And I had never met the lady I was renting a room with. So I just basically showed the cab driver like the screenshot of the address and was like, can you take me here, please? And he did. And thankfully, she was there and I had a place to stay. I didn't know much about Calgary. Again, I didn't plan ahead of time, but the school was in the southwest, and I thought, oh, it's going to be like Oshawa or Toronto. Like, that's not that far. No, this was like a 3 hour walk.
ooh.
That was the three hours away, basically, from where I was renting. But I was like, I'm here. I gave the money to the landlord, and I was like, whatever happens, we'll make it work.
That's a big sacrifice, a big dedication to actually doing the training. I have to ask, like, how were your feelings once you actually started? Because you, like you said, you weren't just commuting. You had actually given up everything in even a temporary basis to just do this full force, and it was make or break. So going into those first days, those first weeks, doing the walk and doing the training, like, how did it actually feel to start doing that training and take those steps towards that dream?
I was probably quaking in my boots if I can remember back. Like I was very, very like inward of a person. Still am now today, but I have that outward function. I just thankfully that class was just a bunch of great people that even like the shyest of guys or girls we got brought out and we felt like a family really quickly. Like we did everything together. So it made that part a little easier. Taking my first bump was like, okay, I can fall down. Like I got this. Then the next couple of weeks of cardio, I don't if you've ever been to Alberta or Calgary, the mountains, like the air is different in Calgary than it is here in Oshawa. I never remember puking just so many times during those first couple of weeks of cardio. You're running the ropes, you roll out of the ring, you go outside, you puke, you come back in, you get back in line. But I never wanted to stop. Like I knew like it's gonna hurt. I'm gonna push myself, but I'm here. I'm not going home. There's no way I'm going home.
Can't imagine doing so much cardio that you throw up. And then after you're done being like, I gotta walk 3 hours home.
So the funny thing about that is I spent the first couple weeks making that trek. Like I would walk 3 hours there, get there early so I could be one of the first ones there. So I could ask Lance questions and just pester him, just get that one-on-one time. And then I'd take the bus with the guys staying in the storm dorm, hang out with them, nap in their spare room, and then try to make the trek back. And this went on for about a month until Zoe Sager had a car and she passed my house every day. She's like, do you just want to ride? And I tell you, the energy I had after getting a ride between walking, I was like a new man. I was like, oh my God, I can run. All right, let's go.
Tell me a little bit about that relationship with Lance, if you had the opportunity to bug him a little bit more, or even with Zoe or your other peers that helped motivate you, because it sounds like you really didn't have a lot to lean on for that extra bit of motivation if things were a little bit tough or if your body was a little bit extra sore. So, how much did you actually get from all of these people and your connections with them?
Just a ton from Lance. He's definitely that mentor that you want that'll take the time to explain things to you in a way that's digestible. Like his brain for the business is astronomical. Like again, there's a reason why he has a job and he will always have a job. It's that it's that brain on him. And then yeah, just the class. Honestly, I we spent so much time outside of training going like we ate together, we most of us got a membership to the same gym together just so we could eat, breathe, sleep, wrestling, talk about it 24/7. Again, we went to bars, we went bowling, we did everything together, which was phenomenal. And I don't think many of Lance's class have did that. So it was pretty cool.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You're going through training, you've learned the basics, you're doing whatever you need to do, but eventually you're going to have your first match, or at least your first experience in ring. Can you tell me a little bit about how that felt to see your name on a card, to hear that you were being booked, just to get in the ring for the first time?
I remember we get to the arena and they had booked us in this Storm Student Battle Royal, and I'm all pumped up. I called the group chat 2 hours ahead of time. I was like, listen, I can't make it, but I'm gonna send Cal the Cowboy Gary in my place because Cal Gary. I thought that's a dope name. This is gonna stick. We're gonna run with this. I'll go to Edmonton, be Eddie Edmonton or something, but we'll figure it out. Got the cowboy hat, and I go in. I'm all pumped up and they're like, "All right, you're gonna be eliminated real quick, like first." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I remember going out for the curtain. They were like, "So who wants to go out first?" I was like, "Well, if I'm going out of the ring first, let me go out first and go and see if I can get a reaction because that's all I want to do here is get a reaction. Go up, get a yay, and they immediately toss me out." And the kid goes, "I thought you were gonna win." I was like, "So did I." So did I. But and it's so much more after the fact of a match or your first match. Like I was vibrating. I didn't go to sleep that night. My legs were shaking just with all the adrenaline. It is the best feeling out there. It's indescribable, man.
Did you get any sort of feedback from people once you got back behind the curtain afterwards?
Yeah, an old timer, great guy, who's no longer with us. He was like, "Are you chewing gum?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't chew gum." I was like, I don't think I was in there long enough to get full advice, but he noticed me enough where he was like, "All right, don't do that."
Personas are a big part of the industry, of course, and take me through a little bit of your thought process on who you wanted to be in the ring. Maybe even when you were growing up, hey, this is ultimately who I'd like to represent, or even, just kind of how you got to where you are in regards to character work.
I've always loved the classic heels, the Pipers, the Flairs. When Dusty did it, Savage, just the small nuances. So when I went into training, all my training matches, I was a heel. With everyone I worked with, I was like, I'll be the heel. I got this. If I don't know what to do, no, just grab a hold. But I was always the heel. Fast forward, I remember going out for a show and being out there and I didn't get a reaction. So I didn't know what to do. And I remember thinking like this is not like training. This is in front of a crowd of people. let's just fire up and see what happens. And then it turns out I've been better at having people cheer me than having them hate me, which is good.
Okay, so you move to Calgary, you do your training. What next? Where do you go from there?
So I came back to Ontario for my sister's wedding, and fell into some bad habits and just started partying a lot. I didn't wasn't getting the bookings that I thought I could be, and I was going out to shows, like I was doing everything I could, thinking that like the work that I put in out there would somehow translate over here. I remember doing ring crew in a seminar for PWE out here, and I had partied the whole night before going in just to do a seminar, figuring like it's gonna be cool, it'll be quick, hoping no one notices how strung out I was. I I went through the seminar just fine, and I go to leave, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna use you on the show." And in my head, I believed I should have just declined, but I said, "Yes, opportunity, let's go." And then I just remember hiding in the back till my match, like not talking to anybody because I didn't want to get figured out. And that really hurt my confidence, just knowing like this is what I really want to do, then I need to make some better decisions with my life. And that started the journey of just trying to figure out like who I am as a person outside of wrestling, and then allowing me to translate a better mental health inside the ring.
What did that journey look like? Did you have a lot of support? Did you kind of step away from wrestling for a period of time?
I did step away for it actually coincided with the pandemic. So when no one was running shows, it took a couple years, honestly, the journey just to work on myself. And when my mom had passed, it kind of just left me like alone and trying to figure it all out again. And then I was just started to do right with my life, and things were going great. And I Googled some gyms in the area, see if I can go bump around, see how it feels. And one place that got back to me was New Beginnings here in Oshawa, where I met Hundo, Sam, and all of them. And just getting in there with them and realizing what I've been actually missing these whole time is that time in the ring.
So almost like getting back in the ring was
Therapeutic.
therapy for you. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
back to something a little bit more familiar. So, how has wrestling been to you since then?
Wrestling to me since then has been fantastic. I've been able to just bridge the gap with promoters that knew me when I wasn't doing so well, and for them to see me now, it's definitely good for relationships, as well as meeting all the new promoters out there because of all the new promote. Ontario indie scene is it's going off like I've never seen it go before, which is fantastic. And then honestly, the relationship with the boys and girls in the back is there is no community like the wrestling community.
That's awesome. Let's focus on some of the positives. What are some of your favorite moments, some highlights of your wrestling career so far, whether they be matches that you've had, chance meetings with performers, or even interactions with fans that left you just enjoying what you do?
Man, anytime a kid hands me something to sign, it's a great moment because I never saw myself as a role model to anyone. So seeing these kids look up to me and ask me for my signature is awesome. I got a chance to meet great legends just at shows. I remember meeting Ricky Steamboat once and asking him how he did his arm drag. And he couldn't quite show me. I think he had just come off hip surgery, but he took a second to just give a little immobile demonstration. And honestly, this past year, the matches that I've been able to have and just find people to work with that have a like-minded set is fantastic. Last October, we I got to have one of my good friends come stay with me and come wrestle a match with me at a Halloween show. I think if I remember correctly, and that was dope. I want to do that more with plenty other Storm students and just other people alike.
any particular matches that were just highlights for you? Just things clicked really well, the chemistry was great, you performed really well, or even just the crowd just bought into it so fully that it really stood out to you?
Man, I did a triple threat no DQ tag, which is always chaotic. But we saw somehow everything fell into place, and it all worked out, and the crowd loved it. And I remember going backstage, and the promoter was like, "Hey, good job with what you had out there." I literally did nothing. I'm pretty sure I got kicked in the head and just stayed to the side for a couple hours calling things out. That's all I do. My match with Cole, I think, is still my best match to this moment. I do plan on having many a more.
That would be Hollywood Cole.
Hollywood Cole, fantastic human being, love him to death. But he's just got one of those attitudes. You just want to punch him in the face.
You hate him because of his attitude, but you love him because of his in-ring work.
Listen, one of the most haunting things I think was ever said to me was we trained with a guy told us, "Listen, you may not like me now, but you will never forget me." And he lives rent free in my head every time that something like this pops up. It's like, damn it! I think we called him the nose.
The nose?
The nose. He had a good gimmick nose.
Oh, okay.
Every time we were in class, every time Lance was explaining something, you just hear the nose blow the off into the corner every 10 seconds, man.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's next for your career? Like, are there any particular opponents that you would love to square up with? Is there any companies that you're hoping to reach out to, or even destinations, provinces, cities that you would like to travel to so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to continue the Canadian circuit before really tackling anywhere else. I'd love this country and being able to go to different sites and seeing it all. For matches, I mean, there's so many top stars. Vertigo, Fuerza. I would love to do a mustache versus mustache match with Ricky Wildley,
Oh, geez.
right? And just any Storm student that wants to come through. I definitely want to give Barat a good run for his money.
That would be awesome.
If you're watching Barat, come on out to Ontario.
I agree. Barat should come out to Ontario. That would be fantastic. Well, let me ask you though, wrestling interview cliche 101 here. Dream opponent though. Let's not talk indies. Don't let your imagination restrain you. Who is the dream opponent if you could wrestle anybody? Although let's just stick to active.
I think I would really like to go against. It's so hard, man. Because my first thought was Jeff Hardy, but then
Okay.
I just thought about the Swanton bomb and how he just lands on top of you. No, yeah, let's go, Jeff.
Would it not be worth it?
Bring it, Jeff Hardy. Anytime you want to drop that wonton bomb.
Oh, that sounds awesome. So what kind of things do you like to do when you're not involved in wrestling? Just in your spare time to unwind as hobbies, to just recharge the batteries?
Big at home guy, or just solitude where I don't need my phone. I work in the restaurant industry, so there's always something going on in the restaurant industry. So when I can disconnect from that and wrestling, and I can just enjoy my family life. I got a dog, Whiskey. I got a lovely girlfriend. We just got back from the cottage, which is rare that like I have 2 days off where I can sneak away and do something like that. So that was very that was very good for the soul, you know. Yeah, other than that, I put a lot of my life into work, whether it's in the ring or in the restaurant. Leafs games have been fantastic for me. It's just a bunch of drunk people and me on a microphone cutting old school promos, and they don't realize they're wrestling promos because they're drunk.
Well, I mean, hopefully the Leafs will not disappoint every year, I guess. You can keep that going a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's again, it's the hope. Everyone is every year. It's just the hope.
I like to ask everybody this question before we sign off, and it can be a little bit of a difficult one. Maybe you want to take a little bit more with it, but if you had a chance to go back and give yourself a piece of advice from when you were starting out into wrestling or at any point in your career, that might be valuable to somebody else to hear that is on the fence right now about getting into the industry, what would you tell them?
I actually think about this a lot. Embrace being uncomfortable. Every situation where I put myself in an uncomfortable situation is usually probably the best place for me because things aren't always going to be easy, especially if you want them. And you may be the odd man out every now and then. But if you don't embrace that uncomfortability and you just hide within yourself, you're not going to grow. You're not going to, you're going to miss out on things. So definitely don't be afraid to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation so you can grow.
That's awesome. So before we sign out, can you just let everybody know once again who you are and where they can maybe follow you online on social media if they just want to keep up with what you got going on?
Absolutely. I am the Beef, Canada's finest. You can follow me at Canada's finest on Instagram. Um, and got a couple shows coming up. I'll be posting about those. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.